there, let's talk about something huge. And I mean literally massive. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Sounds like a myth, right? Oh, it's real, and it's terrifying. Imagine an area of floating trash twice the size of Texas. That's right, a plastic soup drifting between Hawaii and California. And no, it's not an actual island of garbage, it's worse than that. So, how did this happen? Well, ocean currents act like a giant swirling vacuum, sucking in plastic from all over the world and trapping it in a slow-motion whirlpool. But here's the kicker. It's not just the stuff you see floating around. Most of it is microplastics, tiny invisible particles that are nearly impossible to clean up. And here's why you should care. This garbage patch isn't just an ugly mess, it's a growing environmental disaster affecting marine life and even us. So stick around, because we're diving deeper into how this massive problem came to be, and what we can do about it. Alright, now that we know what the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is, let's break down how it actually forms. Spoiler alert, it's not just about people dumping trash into the ocean. There's a much bigger force at play. The real culprit? Ocean currents. Our planet's oceans have these massive circular currents called gyres. Think of them like slow-moving whirlpools, constantly spinning and pulling in whatever floats their way. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch sits inside the North Pacific Gyre, one of the biggest of these slow-moving vortexes. And once trash gets caught in it, well, it's pretty much stuck. And here's the real problem. Most of this waste is plastic. Unlike organic materials, plastic doesn't break down easily. Instead, it just drifts for decades. Over time, sunlight and waves break these plastics into tiny pieces called microplastics. So small they're nearly invisible. But don't be fooled, they're everywhere, and they're a nightmare to clean up. And as if that wasn't bad enough, we're adding more plastic to the ocean every single day through littering, poor waste management, and industrial runoff. So, to sum it up, ocean currents trap plastic, gyres keep it swirling, and over time it turns into tiny, toxic microplastics. And thanks to human activity, the problem just keeps growing. Now that we know how the patch forms, let's look at something even more alarming: its impact on marine life. Trust me, it's not pretty. Alright, now that we know how the Great Pacific Garbage Patch forms, let's talk about something truly heartbreaking: its impact on marine life. Spoiler alert, it's bad. And it's happening on a massive scale. Imagine you're a sea turtle. You're hungry, you spot something floating in the water. It looks like a jellyfish, your favorite snack. But surprise, it's actually a plastic bag. And eating it? That could be deadly. And it's not just turtles. Seabirds, fish, even whales. Millions of marine animals swallow plastic thinking it's food. And once inside their bodies, it doesn't break down. It just stays there. But swallowing plastic is only half the nightmare. The other half? Getting tangled in it. Fishing nets, six-pack rings, and plastic ropes become death traps. For many animals, once they're caught, they can't escape. And here's the really scary part. This plastic doesn't just stay in the ocean. As smaller fish eat microplastics and bigger fish eat them, the plastic works its way up the food chain, right to our dinner plates. So yeah, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch isn't just an ocean problem, it's an everyone problem. Marine life is suffering, and whether we realize it or not, we're all part of this story. But don't lose hope just yet. Now that we know how this disaster impacts marine life, let's talk about how it affects us and what we can actually do about it. All right, we've seen how the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is wreaking havoc on marine life. But here's the kicker. This disaster isn't just an ocean problem. It's a human problem too, and it's already affecting us in ways you probably didn't expect. Let's talk seafood, because chances are, if you eat fish, you're also eating plastic. Microplastics are everywhere in the ocean, and marine creatures unknowingly consume them. And guess what? Those tiny plastic bits don't disappear when seafood lands on your plate. Scientists have found microplastics in human blood, lungs, and even placentas. That's right, plastic is literally inside us. And while we're still figuring out all the health risks, let's be real. Eating plastic? Probably not great for you. Now, let's talk money. The fishing industry? It's losing billions because plastic pollution kills fish, ruins nets, and damages boats. And when seafood supplies drop, prices skyrocket. bad news for your wallet and the millions of people who rely on fishing for their livelihoods. And it's not just the fishing industry. Coastal tourism takes a hit too. Beaches covered in plastic? Not exactly a dream vacation. Resorts, hotels, and businesses that rely on clean shores lose out big time. Long story short, this isn't just an ocean crisis. It's an economic crisis, a food crisis, and possibly a health crisis. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is closer to home than we think. But don't lose hope. Now that we understand how this affects us, let's talk about solutions. Because, trust me, people are fighting back against plastic pollution, and they're making a difference. All right, we've seen how the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is wreaking havoc. But here's the good news. People aren't just standing by. Scientists, engineers, and activists are fighting back. Let's check out some of the biggest efforts to clean up this mess and the challenges they face. First up, the Ocean Cleanup Project. This ambitious effort, founded by a Dutch inventor in the early 2010s, uses massive floating barriers to trap plastic before it breaks down into microplastics. And it's not just big projects. Some solutions are surprisingly simple, like river barriers that catch plastic before it ever reaches the ocean. Stopping pollution at the source is key. But let's be real, cleaning up the ocean is ridiculously hard. The garbage patch is spread over millions of square kilometers, and microplastics? They're practically invisible and impossible to filter out completely. And scaling up solutions? That's another headache. Cleanup systems need funding, constant maintenance, and, most importantly, global cooperation. Without serious commitment from governments and industries, progress is slow. So, while efforts are making a dent, we've got a long way to go. The real fix? Preventing plastic waste in the first place. That means better laws, smarter production, and, yes, less plastic in our daily lives. Bottom line, cleanup is happening, but it's just one piece of the puzzle. If we really want to save our oceans, we need bold action from everyone. Scientists, governments, and, yep, even us. And that brings us to our final question. What does the future hold for the Great Pacific Garbage Patch? So here we are, the final chapter of our deep dive into the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. We've covered its formation, its devastating impact, and the efforts to clean it up. But what does the future hold for this swirling mess of plastic? First, let's talk size. Scientists now estimate that this garbage patch holds hundreds of thousands of tons of plastic, and it's still growing. But here's the good news. Awareness is growing too. Once ignored, plastic pollution is now a major global issue. From viral documentaries to international pledges, more people than ever are paying attention, and that means more action. And the real game changer? A shift in how we use plastic. More countries are banning single-use plastics, companies are developing biodegradable alternatives, and people, like you, are making smarter choices. Education is key. Schools, social media, and global campaigns are inspiring the next generation to rethink waste. Because the best way to fight pollution? Stop it before it starts. So, what's next? Well, that depends on us. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is a disaster, but it's also a wake-up call. If we change our habits today, the ocean could have a cleaner tomorrow. Speaking of a better future, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. It helps spread awareness and keeps us making more awesome content for you. Plus, it makes our editor very happy. And don't forget to subscribe. If you love learning about our planet and how we can protect it, you won't want to miss what we've got coming next. Trust me, it's gonna be good. Now, we want to hear from you. What's one thing you've done to cut down on plastic waste? Or, what's the craziest plastic item you've seen washed up on a beach? Let's chat in the comments.